So when it comes to setting and achieving goals, there are actually only 3 steps. The first one is to figure out what you want. The second one is to come up with steps on how you can go about achieving or attaining that goal. And the third one is to repeat those steps until you do. And while this seems very simple, it can actually be quite a challenge to go through the process. That third step in particular tends to catch a lot of people in a less than fortunate place. So we're going to go over each of these steps a little bit, talk about how you can actually process through this information, figure out what your goals are, and how to go about achieving them. So when it comes to figuring out what you want and what goals you want to achieve, there are 3 avenues that I generally tell people to look into, and that's going to be your health, your wealth, and your relationships. Now, these can look very different from individual to individual, and usually you're going to be dealing with specific and or general goals in any of these categories at any given time. Now, each of these things are kind of tied up into personal development and personal growth, which includes your mind, your emotions, your thoughts, and your beliefs. Those are all things that you're going to be dealing with when trying to accomplish any of these goals, and it's important to keep that in mind, especially when you're fighting the urge to not progress forward or to not do the things you need to do in order to achieve the goals. You're going to be fighting with your beliefs and your thoughts a lot during that process, and your emotions are kind of fueling that process. So keep that in mind. But as far as achieving goals is concerned, health, wealth, relationships, those are the 3 categories. Now, when it comes to health, for example, you may have something general, kind of like, I want to be healthier. And that generally is going to come down to something like, hey, making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure you're getting enough of water, getting enough protein, getting your fiber in. Those things generally are going to improve your health overall. And then, of course, you can add in more things as you get more healthy. But if it comes down to something more specific, like losing weight, that's something that I am working on right now, or trying to treat your diabetes, or trying to lower your blood pressure. All of these things are more specific and may require different steps. You may need to go to your doctor to get a diagnosis or a prescription. You may need to seek out health practitioners in other fields, like chiropractics or health coaches of some sort who have alternate approaches to whatever your problem is, because your doctor doesn't seem to be providing a solution that's helping for whatever reason. But the steps to attain these are going to be something that you're going to kind of have to figure out, and that kind of goes into step 2 a little bit too. But as far as health is concerned, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at either specific or general. The specific or general for wealth is generally going to be coming down to, how can I get more money in the door? 90% of people are going to be struggling with that particular issue rather than, I have too much money, what should I do with it? So likely you're in the situation where you're trying to get more time and money so that you can invest more into your health and your relationships. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're struggling in your life, the number 1 location that you can work on is your wealth situation. And I definitely am excited about the business that my husband and I are starting. And if you're interested in learning more about that, feel free to reach out. We can set up a chat, get you started going down the same path. But as far as wealth is concerned, you definitely have those general or specific goals as well. You can have the desire of, I want more time and I want more money so that I'm not worried so much. But then you also have specific goals like, I want to buy a house. I want to buy a car. I want to buy a specific car. I want to be able to afford my medical bills, to get out of debt. All of these things are specific, and the approach is going to be different depending on what you are trying to accomplish. As far as your relationships are concerned, you've got even more variety here. Still general, still specific. You can desire to have better relationships with the people that you already are in relationship with, or you can desire to bring in a new relationship to your life. A big one is, I want to find a mate. I want to find a significant other. I want to get married. Those are very common relationship goals. And I know, especially right now, that a lot of people are struggling on this social front. And that's actually also something that I'm working with people on in order to help them develop more social skill and have the opportunity to actually have more relationships. So be sure to contact me about that, or even just watch to see what comes out later. But the idea is that here you need to kind of improve your skills more often, and it's going to be a little bit more nuanced. So if you're struggling in other avenues, usually the relationship one is going to take a back burner because it requires a lot of time, and you don't really have the opportunity to reduce time in other avenues if you are struggling with something in particular over there. So specific goals here too, it's probably going to be the one that you struggle with the most overall, because relationships can always be improved. Whereas if you're in a nice place financially, you don't really have to think about it anymore. And if you're in a nice place health-wise, you don't really need to think about it anymore. Whereas relationships, you almost always need to be thinking about them, putting time in, putting effort into them in order for them to remain healthy. And while that is somewhat true as far as wealth and health is concerned, it's less so the case. So always, I would recommend focusing on your wealth first. But as far as what requires the most energy and education, is going to be your relationships. Now, as far as figuring out the specific steps in order to achieve your goals, that one's going to be a little bit more nuanced. So if you're somebody who, say, wants to get married, you have two basic avenues. You can meet somebody in person or you can meet somebody online. But any way you look at it, it requires you to take a step out of your comfort zone. If you want to meet in person, you need to get out of the house. You need to talk to, say, 3 to 5 new people every day, sift through those individuals and determine, hey, is this somebody that I can connect with? Is this somebody that I can have a relationship with? Were they open to having a relationship with me? That kind of thing. When it comes to online dating, I would say it's a little bit easier, especially if you're a woman. But even if you're a guy, reach out to 3 to 5 people. Send a message to 3 to 5 people, like 3 to 5 profiles, whatever. See what's out there, try to get traction, so on and so forth. You can always, of course, also look at alternate methods as well, like meeting people via a video game or whatever. I certainly know that there are people who have done that. Not necessarily one that I know what steps you should be taking on that one. I myself am a product of a online dating success story where my husband and I met on a dating website and now we're married with 2 babies. So I definitely think it can work. And my dad is also a product of a online relationship where he and his wife, new wife now, have met online. He did more of a systematic approach like I'm suggesting here, and he found somebody and got married. So it does work even for guys because my dad was the one that kind of indicated this to me. So feel free to use that method yourself. As far as health is concerned, that just requires learning more about healthy habits and then implementing them. So whatever you're trying to accomplish, you figure out what exactly is or what's most likely the cause of whatever problem you're dealing with, and then figure out how to solve that issue. So if you're trying to lose weight, make sure to start tracking your food. That's a really big one. And it's shockingly difficult because you kind of have to face the realities of your own life and the bad decisions you have made and the bad habits that you've made. So that can be quite a challenge. But learning to track your food, big first step as far as weight loss is concerned. If you're trying to go for just general health, though, upping protein, upping your water intake, upping the amount of sleep you get, generally speaking, is probably going to help improve your body in some fashion. And then whatever else you're trying to accomplish health-wise, you may need input from other people who know a little bit more about the topic, something specific where somebody is actually educating you on that specific topic. But you can pretty much guarantee that if somebody has a solution, there is the potential it will work for you. And then when it comes to wealth, there are any number of steps around this. There is this basic concept, though, of the cash flow quadrant, which I would suggest anybody look into if they're looking to increase their income, because there's almost a guarantee that if you're trying to increase your income via a job, it's not going to work very well. So if you're looking to increase your income, you're probably looking at either getting a second job or building some sort of business. And that can be quite a challenge, but it is something that I'm going to be teaching a course on in the near future, so keep an eye out for that, or reach out to me and we can start working together if you don't want to wait for me to get the course developed, because this is the one that I actually know the most about and can help more people with. So those are basically the steps that I would encourage somebody to take as far as just figuring out what steps you need to do in order to achieve your goals. But then as far as implementing them and being consistent, that really comes down to this concept of discipline. And I think a lot of people struggle with discipline. I certainly am no exception to this. I struggle with discipline a lot. I know my husband struggles with discipline. Pretty much every person on the planet that I know has struggled with discipline at one point or another and still does, usually on a regular basis. But something that I did learn that I found tremendously helpful over the last week or so is that discipline is actually an emotion. Now, this is a new concept to me, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on it. But if you think of discipline as an emotion, it gives you some concrete steps to take in order to enact or become more disciplined in your life. So what was described to me by this teacher called Healthy Gamer, he's a YouTuber, you can look him up. He describes how when you feel resolved, that's kind of what creates discipline in your life. You have this sense inside you that I am going to do or not do something, and that's it. There's no arguing, there's no fighting, there's no ifs and or buts. That decision to absolutely do this no matter what is likely what's going to keep you disciplined as far as moving forward. Because they did, I think it was a study or something like that, where they were talking about what the opposite of discipline was, and what they came up with is doubt. And that concept to me was like mind blown, because that's, I think, absolutely true. When you doubt, you are not disciplined. You can't be disciplined because you're constantly in this space of, but is it the right decision? But is it the right path? So when you feel that resolve, when you embrace that feeling of resolution, you actually become more empowered. You actually start to generate more energy within yourself. And if you can bring up that resolution on a regular basis, you can actually start to train yourself to be disciplined, and you can start to create more resolution within your life to keep you disciplined in more avenues. So he describes coming up with a practice, a daily practice, something called like a Sapolka, I think is what it's called. Mine is making one video every single day, because that is the step that is likely going to take me where I want to go in the fashion that I want to get there. So I'm making my video right now for the day, and you're going to be watching that, which indicates that I'm actually doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. But overall, this is not something that is super duper challenging for me. I used to actually do 5 videos a day on TikTok, and I can tell you that was a lot harder, especially since there's so much more nuance than you can tell somebody in the short period of time that you generally want to have on TikTok. So as far as that is concerned, this has been kind of a reinvention and a process of figuring out what step is actually necessary for me to do. But whatever it is you want to accomplish, whatever little thing or minorly challenging thing you want to put in as your daily resolution practice, make sure to feel that sense of resolution. Try to pull it up in yourself. When you wake up, you go, okay, I am resolute about this. What does that mean? What does that feel like? And try to allow that emotion to build inside you. If you think about an emotion for 17 seconds, though, it usually will start to create momentum in your body and then spur you on through the rest of your day. So overall, I would say this is an excellent practice and something that you should try at the very least. I know so many people, myself included, we tend to get stuck in this place of, well, it may have worked for them, but it probably won't work for me. Because for whatever reason, we've learned that we aren't the norm. We aren't the same as everybody else. But I can pretty much guarantee you that most things that work for a lot of people will work for everybody. And it's almost universally true. So consider that you may not be as unique as you think. That's not a bad thing. Allow yourself the opportunity to try something, even in the quiet space of your own mind, and see what you can achieve with it. And that way you can actually start to gain the control you need and the discipline you need in order to achieve the goals that you ultimately are aiming at. So set up that practice, do those resolutions, build up that discipline, and then apply them to your overarching goals. And that's how you set and achieve your goals.